Welcome to the So Much More podcast, where we talk with people in the custom window treatment, soft home furnishings industry, and so much more. I'm your host, Seal DeGuglielmo. My guest on the podcast today is Katie Williams. She is the sole owner and seamstress of Mississippi Stitches. She specializes in handcrafted custom pillow covers and bolsters, which are available to anyone looking for customizable options and designer textiles to finish their space with lasting style. Katie resides in central Mississippi along with her Vizsla Ruth, who serves as the mascot for the whole operation. When she's not sewing, you can find Katie in her vegetable and flower garden or enjoying finding birds with Ruth. It was exciting for me to talk with Katie because she is new in the industry. She has created a business model that's a little different from some of the rest of us. She took a very big career risk by going into this full time, and she's expanding her space that she can work in. I really hope that you enjoy hearing from Katie today. Good morning, Katie. How are you?
Hi, Seal. I'm great. How are you this morning?
Terrific. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm very excited to meet with you and share.
Yes, and you have a slightly different business model than some of the other people that I've interviewed, and this is what absolutely fascinates me about our industry is that we can do things in a way that works for us. So why don't we start by having you tell us a little bit about who you are, where you live in the world, and a little bit about your business.
So my name's Katie. I am the owner, sole, everything, marketer, seamstress, business, bookkeeper, all of the things for Mississippi Stitches. I consider myself a pillow shop. I sell mostly to retail clients. I custom make pillows and bolsters, ship them all over the nation. But I operate out of my workroom in central Mississippi, Jackson area, if anybody's familiar with that. I'm currently building a new workroom, which is the exciting part.
So exciting.
Trying to expand a little bit. I work in my little teeny guest bedroom of my current house, and my whole home is now filled with pillows and inserts and material, and I'm getting a little overwhelmed. So I'm excited to separate business and personal life again.
Okay. Yeah, I want to talk to you a little bit about that more later on.
We will definitely get in the weeds about that. But yeah, so I've had this pillow shop for this is my 5th year. The end of this year will be 5 years. It's been a lot of fun, a wild ride, I'll say, to get here and to continue this. But it's been a lot of fun learning all the things, how to run a business, how to do it yourself. I'm learning you can't do it yourself. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to hire help or outsource some things. But and
you do have one. Basic. You do have one helper.
I do. So I have 2 if you want to count the dog. She's my little mascot that gets me all the clients. I hired a friend of mine recently just as a contractor. She's helping me develop, I call her my business development or trade account development. She's helping me reach out to new clients, new interior designers, just to generate some more business. So that's been my first she's my first dabble in employee.
Oh, that's awesome.
That kind of thing. So it's been fun.
So how did you get started with this?
Seal, this is probably the longest story. So I am
we have time.
I know how much time do we have? This could take all day. I am a pediatric nurse by trade, original trade. I graduated from Mississippi State. I actually have a marketing degree from Mississippi State and immediately went into nursing. I graduated kind of in the time, it was 2008, so kind of in the financial crisis back then. And there's not a job out there. And I kind of saw the writing on the wall and knew it was going to be difficult. And I also had just had some friends in the nursing industry. My mom worked at a hospital and I got to see firsthand what that life looked like. And I thought, I could do nursing. That sounds fun too. So I immediately graduated from Mississippi State and then went into a nursing program here in Jackson, graduated a couple years later with my bachelor's in nursing and worked at a pediatric hospital. And I did that for about 10 years before I left. Okay. So the backstory is I taught myself how to sew in nursing school. A friend of mine in one of my classes, her mom was a seamstress locally. And so we looked at fabric all day. I should have been paying attention in class, but she and I are browsing all the fabric websites. And I had no idea that industry was even out there. I had no experience in fabrics, no experience in sewing, anything like that. So it kind of opened my eyes a little bit, and I thought, well, I want to do this. So I taught myself how to sew. My parents bought me a sewing machine for Christmas in nursing school, taught myself how to sew. And then a few years later, while I was nursing, I thought, well, I could open a little side hobby. So I bought an embroidery machine and started monogramming, embroidering. I was doing things for girls at work. But as most everybody knows, those little tasks are little reward. You do a lot of work to custom make something and maybe make $10. So I got burnout very fast. So I shut down the embroidery business and I worked for a couple more years at the hospital, but I was missing something. I just wanted to get back into sewing. I missed the work. So I reopened as a home decor shop. Did just pillows, which I loved the most. Those were bigger projects, a little bit more reward. And then in 2019, I was kind of struggling, just felt burnout at work. And I was trying to do the side hobby again and make this work. And I thought, this is kind of a time in my life I can make a change. I can do something different. Kind of want to get out of nursing and not necessarily get out of nursing. I just wanted to make a change. And the sewing thing was fun. It was fun as a side gig. And I thought, this is the time to try it full time. If it doesn't work out, I can go back. So at the end of 2019, I left my nursing career, took Mississippi Stitches full time. And it's been a wild ride ever since.
So you started a year before the pandemic or?
I started just before. So January of 2020, I went full time. And I was not completely risk-free. I did take a school nurse job. I thought I'll at least have something to pay a bill or two. Okay. So I did that. And then as we all know, in March, COVID shut everybody down. So I was actually furloughed because as a school, we weren't working. Right. So I had to depend on the pillows all of 2020, which ended up being the best thing because it put a little fire under me to make it work. Right. I knew I had to make sales and I had to meet certain goals. And so that was actually a really good thing. And then of course the design industry took off. So my business flourished in that because everybody was redecorating and renovating and so I think the timing was good. Okay. All right. So I hear what you're saying about those little items. They take a long time and little reward. Yes. There's a really fun Instagram account called Can You Sew This For Me? And it's so funny because they, most of the time, and I have to be careful because sometimes it's a little bit snarky and a little bit negative, like what people will ask people who sew to do for them, especially for free. But how people handle things is always inspiring to me. But then I think on the weekends, they always do what they call sweet ones where people do, like someone will say, oh, can you just fix this for me? They do it. And then they overpay or like they're so grateful and they understand this is not a little thing. But I do believe that there are certain types of projects and pillows fall into that. So I want to talk a little bit more about that. Like, well, how hard can it be? Well, if you're not a sewer, then I can tell you it's not that easy. And you've now been doing it for a long time. So it's easier for you and it's faster, but it's years of learning new methods and all of that. So and there's always something somebody throws in, a new trim or some kind of design that'll throw you off. Yes, it changes your standard or whatever it is. And that's why we call it custom. Yes. All right. So the risk part of it is pretty fascinating to me. And I've talked with other people on the podcast who are either the sole source of income for themselves or their family, or it was this is my chance to do it. If I'm not successful, I'm not going to keep doing it. And it does kind of light that fire. A lot of people early on in the parts of this industry where we didn't know about each other and didn't know about other workrooms, a lot of us started because, it was a couple extra dollars and we could help out and things like that. So the inspiration
bills piling up on the counter was not quite the same for some of us, but it is for a lot of us. And I got to make this many pillows this month or the bills are not getting paid. And nobody wants to hear me complain about that because I made the decision to start this business.
Yes. So, well, and I think, people comment a lot about the risk that I took, and I see it as a risk per se. But I also, it is just me. I'm not, there's no other dependent. I don't have children. I don't have a husband that's dependent on my income. So there is some, to me, that's less of a risk.
Right.
As some other situations. But there's no consistency in this. I think everybody can appreciate that. Yeah. There's, you have your slow seasons, and it's taken me, I still struggle on some of the months where it's a little slower. Like, is this the end? What do I need to do? When you have I call it a W-2 job. When you have consistent income, it's a little, your mind isn't as worried as when you're self-employed,
right,
or running a business, because you do. It is. I guess the point is always risky, but I still feel like mine is just a little more flexible. I don't have to worry as much. So as much as I guess the risk is always there, and I do appreciate all of us have a different reason for taking the leap. I think you were talking about the reasons people leave or people change careers or get into this industry. I was in a place, I loved my job. I loved everything I was doing. Loved my coworkers, loved my patients. So there wasn't anything that said, you've got to make this change. Like there's a bill that needs to be paid, or you need to make more, or you need to do something different. There was just this feeling inside of me that thought, I just want to do something different. Yeah. There was a book that I read that was talking about, just how we make decisions, and we constantly pray, like, God, tell me what to do, like, lead me to this place, do this for, like, how do I make this decision? And the ultimate goal of the book was to say, sometimes it's not about, like, God telling you what to do. It's about, like, glorifying him in any decision you make. So my realization was, okay, I can nurse and I can do this, and maybe this is a great decision, but I can also help others in this role too. And so it wasn't like, is this a right or wrong decision?
Right.
I'm going to take this leap, and I'm going to do it with all I have, put all of my effort into it, and help others in some other way. Right. And that was kind of the realization that, like, this is worth the risk too. Like, it's going to work out. Like, I'm making a good decision in this, I guess, is my point through that.
Katie, I love that, because I think I've had conversations with people where, and we talked about a little bit of this before we started to record, like, I just do this. And I have a sister who's a nurse. Yeah. I have a sister who started out her career as a pharmacologist, and she worked at a children's hospital. Another sister handles financial deals for companies. And I just make window treatments. Yeah. But none of them can do what I do.
Right. Right. And I do the exact same thing.
And the other thing is, too, you worked with children. And I cannot imagine anything more rewarding, but also exhausting, because to be dealing with sick children all the time. And I'm sure you saw some wonderful recoveries and some really wonderful children. And I'm so sure you saw some awful things. And that's... to be able to consistently give back the way you did through your nursing is a beautiful thing, but that doesn't mean you're obligated to do it for your entire life.
Right. I think there's always a season, you have these seasons of your life that you serve people in every different way. And I as much as I miss sometimes my role as a nurse, I miss the children I cared for. Yeah. There was some mental exhaustion to it. And the pillow shop is different. I mean, the mental exhaustion here is completely different.
There's also mental exhaustion here too.
And I do struggle a lot, or I did it initially. I don't as much anymore, but thinking, okay, I used to nurse and help children. I used to help families. I used to get them well. And now I just make pillows. Like, how is that a service? But I'm realizing everything we do has an interaction with another person. I'm not just making pillows. I'm serving my clients. I'm building relationships with vendors, other designers. And those are ways I feel like are very important in how I can help others, or just be a light to others. It may not be healing a child, but it's still helping others in some way.
And I do think that's a really important point. Everything we bring to every interaction with another human being.
Yes.
I have a good friend, and I always refer to it as she flirts with everyone. But people walk away. Please do. But she walks away from interactions with other people, and they're smiling. And it's as simple as, "Ooh, I like your nails," or "That is such a pretty shirt on you." And, taking a walk, and there's an older man walking a dog, and she says, "Oh my goodness, your dog is so beautiful." Like just, she says the nicest things to people, and then doesn't understand why people always want to be around her. Like, because you make it a better place. That's why.
Yes. And people love to be noticed. Yes. So I think about like the draperies and pillows, like when I tell myself it's just a pillow, but my goal has always been, when you buy a pillow for me, or you buy a drape from anybody, like you decorate your home, whether it's for me or another business, another workroom, you're making your home beautiful. Like you want to invite people in, you want to host others, be hospitable, like that. It is just a pillow. But when people walk in your home and they feel invited and warm, like that's such a gift to be able to provide that for somebody.
And I do believe that whether we work with retail clients or interior designers, there is something about being of service to them. The designers that I've had the privilege to work with have always been appreciative of what I've brought to the table. And so therefore, I feel like I'm providing them with a product for their client, but I'm also providing them with a service. And you're right. At the end of the day, I've made their life easier, or their life better, depending on how you want to word it. So, all right. I love that, Katie. So you've mentioned designers and you've mentioned retail. What's the balance like? How much of which?
I'm a mix. So I'm mostly retail. I offer, so I have a website. Everything is done online. I don't allow clients into my home, anything like that. So everything is operated through Shopify, through my website. Clients can go on my website. They can pick custom options for each fabric that I stock, whether that's size, trim style, backing, whatever. But I also take custom requests. So if there's a different size or different fabric, I take that on. But that's mostly retail. I do offer my products to the trade. So I have interior designers in my trade account where they get a discount on the things that I stock. As we all know, like there are industry standards, or textile designers require yardage minimums, and you have to exceed, so like for custom requests, I can't always offer the same discount to interior designers, but I try to keep my pricing as competitive as I can. So most of what I offer, or what I sell, is just through my website. Retail clients log in, see things. Interior designers log in my website, see what's available, and they order. But like I said, I do allow custom requests for other fabrics, things like that. For interior designers, I have 5 or 6 currently on my list where I'll allow them to send me COM. I'll allow them to send me material. I don't allow that for my retail clients because I just don't have the space, and I'm very limited on the designers that I have in that program. But a handful of them, they'll send me, work orders, and I calculate yardage, come up with a quote. They'll ship me the fabric, and then I make it and ship it out. And that's a very small part of my business, but it's a consistent part that I love.
Nice.
But I would say I'm probably like 80-20, 80% retail, 20% trade. But I used to have an Etsy shop. I'll make note of this too. I do still, I started on Etsy only. And quickly in COVID transitioned to a website. And I've, over the last 5 years, have been slowly getting off Etsy, removing the commission fees. Everything gets so expensive on there.
Agreed.
So with the social media and being able to market on social media, I've been able to steer people to my website, and that's helped from like a profit margin perspective. I do still have that Etsy shop, but it is very minimal on what I list there.
Do you ship the pillow covers? You don't ship the fillers? Is that how I understand it?
Yeah. So when I first started, I was only doing pillow covers, and I only offered like square and lumbars. After about a year, I started offering bolsters, got into bolsters, and realized, okay, I've got to start stocking inserts because I needed the insert for the bolster. I ship with all of my bolsters. I include the insert.
Okay.
But my square and lumbars, I don't include the insert. And I'll say most of my clients don't need an insert. Most of my orders are the cover only. But I guess about a year in, when I started doing the bolsters, I realized there are some clients who need inserts and they want to make sure everything fits. And I want to make sure everything fits.
Yeah.
We all know that. So I did start stocking select sizes of inserts, which is another reason my house is filled.
I was going to say, that takes up a lot of space.
Every closet in my home has inserts. My master bedroom has boxes of inserts. I wake up to those every morning. I have shelves everywhere filled with inserts. So yeah, they take up a lot of room and they are expensive to ship.
Okay.
But I do offer them. All of my bolsters, I ship them in big boxes. They go out. It takes up a lot of space, a lot of room. But I will say again, most of my clients are just ordering pillow covers.
Okay.
And they're very easy to ship, very quick to ship, and not expensive to ship.
Okay.
Well, I was going to say too, like I used to offer international shipping, and that was a bit much. Some of the people listening will know this too. I mean, with all of the regulations and custom fees, or just all of those things, I had a couple of pillow covers that got shipped. I think one of the places was probably like London, and it sat in customs for 4 weeks. Oh. And it took it was one of those, like, I can't do anything about it. And the client's waiting, and it is what it is. But it gave me a lot of anxiety because I thought this is never going to reach her. And that's a large order. How am I going to resolve this?
Right.
So I stopped doing international shipping and only offer domestic, which has been not a problem. I rarely have anybody reach out about international, but I will say that has lessened my anxiety a lot.
I was going to say that it takes up a lot of brain space.
Yes.
And probably took a lot of time tracking and checking and tracking and checking. And that takes you away from running the rest of the business. So even if it's a large order, it may not be worth your time. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I have had shipping use. I'm going to say this carefully. It has been easy to ship nationwide, but I will say I have had plenty of issues with UPS and USPS. I mean, it has not been a breeze. I've had packages lost, and they've always been the most expensive ones, or the most custom orders that get lost.
Of course,
it's never the just the swatches that get lost in the mail. It's something big, and so I've had some lessons learned there. With my website, I have shipping through the host. The host provider has contracts with UPS and post office, and so it's very easy for me to ship. Print a shipping label. All of that is easy. I learned early on that large packages I should probably add insurance to.
Oops.
I learned that the hard way. So there are learning curves like that with shipping. And I'm sure a curveball will be thrown at me again. But I feel like over the last 5 years, I've learned some good lessons and have tightened up on how I process those.
Okay. Katie, have you ever considered quitting and going back to nursing or starting something?
Oh, I did. COVID year, I thought, what have I done? What have I done? Now I'm not, I've lost my school nurse job. I'm not that profitable in my sewing business yet. Like, how am I going to do this? And so I certainly did. But I will say now I have no desire to go back. I mean, there's some days I miss it, but I have no desire to go back per se. I love this so much. A friend of mine, I use this quote all the time. He says, I'm not W-2 people. I'm basically, he's like, I'm just not W-2. And I think, well, that's just me now. I'm not W-2 people anymore.
I like that. I'm stealing that.
I know. I love it.
Yeah.
I feel that way a lot now. As much as, some of the slow seasons can affect me just mentally.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back to W-2 life. I don't want to go back to nursing in that way. I feel like at this point, 5 years in, I feel pretty confident that I'm not going anywhere. So it's just a challenge to keep pressing on. So there are some days like I'll get, if there's something wrong with an order or something happens, you have this mental shift of, what have I done? Maybe I'm not in the right business. But the next day you wake up and you realize, okay, it's okay. It's okay. This will work itself out. Just be kind to people and it will work itself out.
Yes. So I'm curious, you're 5 years in.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
That's a very good question. So I'm in the process. I mentioned building this workroom. I have literally been in about 200 square feet. When I started the first year in business, I dedicated one bedroom. It was my office, my sewing space. So it's literally 100 square feet. And after a year, I realized, okay, I at least need an office. So I took my second guest bedroom, turned it into my office, and built out the other room to bigger workspace. Mm-hmm. But now I'm in this, okay, I need more than 200 square feet. And I think even in some of the workroom Facebook groups, people have talked about what you need, how much is too much or how much is too little. So I decided I guess it's been a year and a half ago, I realized I've got to make a change. I need more space. So it was either rent a space or build a space. And I love working at home. So I didn't want to drive to work every day. And I mentioned my dog. She would not like it if I left her every day. She would not. So I was like, okay, well, we're going to build something. So I have found a piece of property. I'm in the process of building this workroom. I will expand my space to about 600 square feet. And then eventually I'm going to live in this workroom too. So it's about 1,500 square feet of space. So eventually I will move out and dedicate the whole build to workspace. So I'm getting ready to triple my workspace, which also means I've got to do more. I have more space, so now I need to do something.
Okay.
So looking out over the next 5 years, I mean, ideally, I love doing pillows and bolsters. I feel like that's my little niche. Mm-hmm. I love that, and I'm very efficient at it. But I wonder about other products. I don't necessarily want to get into the window treatment business. I feel like that once you start adding too many products, you lose efficiency in others.
Right.
So I think pillows is going to be my sweet spot, but I would love to offer either home decor or work with other workrooms to maybe be like a third party
gotcha.
person, outsource things and offer that to my clients. I feel like that's where I'm headed over the next few years, just trying to expand my product line, even offer more fabrics. I stock the way I keep my prices the way they are. So I stock designer fabrics. I keep small amounts in my workroom at any given time. Mm-hmm. So when you order from me, I have a quick turnaround time. I try to turn around in 3 to 4 days, get everything out quickly. I would love to offer more fabrics. I don't have the space, but I soon will. So that just means expanding how many pillows I have, how much fabric I keep stocked, that kind of thing.
I'm thinking that space is going to get filled up very quickly.
Well, that's I was just about to say both that, and then I think, okay, that's a lot of inventory too. I mean, that brings its own problems.
Yes.
So who knows? Like I said, I really want to stick to pillows, and I want to keep this going. But there's some other just accessories I may add to the website, or just some other options out there that may help.
Okay. What's been the biggest challenge for you so far?
Oh, I think for everybody would agree. Pricing is a big challenge. That was a learning curve for me, trying to figure out how to value my labor, my own time, and then even fabric, how expensive fabric is, and how to mark that up. There's no standard anywhere.
Right.
Nobody has a standard, and that's great. That's fine. But just kind of figuring out what my time is worth, what my overhead is, how to do that and justify it too. When I first started, I had major, I guess, just mental issue, just thinking about mentally, is this too much? Am I asking too much? When somebody says this is too expensive, do I devalue my work? Do I say, okay, well, I'll give it to you for this? You learn quickly. I hope I tried to learn quickly that you can't, you cannot devalue yourself. You are valuable. Your work is valuable, and these fabrics are expensive. They're luxury. They're not for everybody.
Right.
And I have gotten more confident in that over the years. Telling people, no, I can't do it for less. This is the price.
Yeah.
Either take it or leave it, and not being offended if they say no, or not worrying that maybe I was overpriced.
Right.
Just all of those settling around that. But in that too, I feel like I've had a lot of imposter syndrome over looking at other workrooms and saying, okay, well, like we said before, I just do pillows. My work is not as extensive as maybe somebody who's doing drapery or upholstery, maybe I shouldn't price myself this way because it is just a pillow. There's just all of that.
I'm feeling your pain as you're talking. Yeah. I totally get it.
It has been a very big challenge for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's the thing. You and I both use the word just, and working very hard to eliminate that from my vocabulary.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is over the past 5 years, you have perfected the way you do things. Mm-hmm. You may do it faster than you did 5 years ago, but that just means you're better at it. Yes. Not that you should charge less. Yes. And you're right. I think we keep forgetting. I mean, there are times when I put together a pillow estimate and I go, holy cow, who would pay that for a pillow? but the fact of the matter is I wouldn't, because I can do it. Yes. But I'm not the one who picked the fabric that was $200 a yard and has a fabric repeat that's 35 inches. Yes. So you need to buy 3 yards of it to do 4. Yes. Like none of those are my decisions. And so I can't help that it's going because and the same thing, I've had designers say, well, wow, that's a lot. And the fabric's expensive. Can you do it better? No, I can't. Yeah. This is my price. And the same thing, if that doesn't work for you, I'm okay with that, because I that frees me up to do something else.
Yeah. And you learn too in those decisions, when you do devalue yourself or say, okay, I'll do it for less, how mad you are the whole time you're making it. Yes. Because you realize you're not making what you should.
Yes.
And that is worse to me. So I try not to go that way. I think this is what it's going to cost. This is what I'm going to do it for. And if you don't want that, then it's not my problem. I mean, I'm not going to worry about it.
I want to jump in and take a moment to thank the sponsors who make it possible for me to bring you the podcast each week. My sponsors are people in the industry that I have personally had a connection to, purchased from, or used their services. So it makes it really easy for me to tell you about them and the great things that they have to offer. Because I feel so strongly about education in our industry, I'm thrilled that as the owner of the Curtains and Soft Furnishings Resource Library, I can use the resources of the library to help support the podcast. The library hosts the industry's largest curated collection of educational resources for the custom home furnishings professional. Membership to the library gives you access to a wealth of downloadable reference materials, videos, live events, as well as a community of support to help you develop your design, sales, and fabrication skills, and to grow or start a business. Join the library today at csfrl.org. Angels Linings would like to invite you to become part of their family. With reputable lining comes exceptional customer service. Trust them with your linings like I do. You get 2 Tootsie Pops with every bolt of lining you receive. For smiles, satisfaction, and a sugar kick all around, call Angels Linings at 1-800-450-9368. The Workroom Channel is the premier online training provider for professional fabrication skills. Go to theworkroomchannel.com to browse the selection of anytime access courses created by industry experts. Watch detailed demonstration videos, download companion materials, and participate in private course discussion boards with your instructor and classmates from around the world. Start your course path today at theworkroomchannel.com. If you've listened to the podcast, you know how much I've learned from Michelle Williams. And I think most of my guests have mentioned taking at least one of her classes or gotten coaching from her. Her business is Scarlet Thread Consulting. Michelle loves to work with creative business owners to help them understand all aspects of their business and to use their gifts and talents to make it profitable. Michelle is a strategic profitability coach certified in the Profit First methodology, and she can be reached at scarletthreadconsulting.com. I've also mentioned my membership with the WCAA, and I'm now a gold level sponsor, where education, networking, visibility, and industry discounts are just a few of the benefits that are offered to our members. The Window Covering Association of America is the only national nonprofit trade association that's dedicated to the window coverings industry and the dealers, decorators, workrooms, designers, and installers that make up our membership. Join today at WCAA.org. WCAA, where you are never in business alone. I've also been extremely fortunate to be able to work with Merrill Y. Landis, Ltd. It's a family-owned and operated custom workroom and product distribution company to the trade with over 70 years of experience. And in addition to their custom work, they offer a wide variety of decorative drapery hardware. They offer Stout and Flair 21 fabrics. They have Roman shade operating systems and assembly kits. They have motorization and workroom supplies, and they serve both designers and workrooms. And you can check out the MYL Advantage at mylLTD.com. So let's talk about Etsy for a minute. Did you, because, and there are things that I've purchased from Etsy. I bought a couple of actually sewing patterns recently, and I am happy to support people to do things like that. I bought a couple of PDF downloads that I use in my business that I've used for wedding planning for my daughter. Like, I am happy to support people doing that. But when I buy a $4 item, I wonder, like, how much do they get? Now it's a PDF, so it's not, they're not shipping me anything, but I'm thinking, you know, how much can they be making off of this? Yeah. And then I look at, very often if you search for something in Etsy, you'll see something that'll say $2.95. And then you go on and there is not a thing there for $2.95. And I don't mind if it's $40. Don't tell me it's $2.95 and then switch it around. But then I realize it's
tricky.
What fabrics am I choosing? I get all of that. But did you see any kind of price devaluation on Etsy? Like where there were people who you wanted to say, oh, honey, give me a call. We need to talk.
Yes. Oh, 100%. And that's been one. Okay. So when I started, like I said, I was only on Etsy, and Etsy used to be, you know, all about handmade, vintage. They focused on small businesses, and it was great.
Same. Yeah.
It's great. But I would say even 4 years, just, it has really changed. One of my frustrations is that I see a lot of stolen patterns. Like, you know, I work with very high-end designer textiles who work very hard to create their patterns and artwork. And then there are companies in another nation who steal that, duplicate it, and sell it for $15 on Etsy when it's really $200. You know, just things like that. And I got very frustrated with that because I feel like Etsy didn't patrol the shops like they should.
Right.
And then there are other workrooms that are on Etsy too that I feel like I don't understand how they're making a profit. You know, I know what that fabric costs. Right. I can't imagine, you know, and so when I was my first year, I was pricing my pillows based on all the other workrooms on Etsy. And I was like, there's no way. Like, there's just no way. So I've had, you know, learning how to not do that, realize like maybe they're devaluing, or maybe their overhead isn't as much, whatever. Right. I have to set my own standard. Yes. But the Etsy thing, just realizing how many shops are on there that either copyright images or steal fabric patterns and print them cheaply. Just, it's kind of like the Amazon thing. Yeah. I mean, just, you know, it's frustrating when you're in our industry to see patterns get stolen, or to see something made cheaply and then sold for $2, $4, you know, like how is that possible?
It's not. And it's, I do agree that, same thing in the beginning, a lot of us priced our work based on what we saw online with, you know, large commercial workrooms, and then realized, well, I can't make a living doing that. So,
yes. And I think, you know, I keep things on Etsy. The good thing about Etsy is that it is a searchable place. It's a marketplace. So if people are searching for a certain fabric or a certain type of pillow,
you're on Google, it will come up. Yep.
Yes. I want to be visible. So I have what I've decided to do is instead of offering all of my made to order items, all of my custom pillows, I do keep a selection of ready to ship inventory. The ready to ship stuff in my shop comes from either fabrics I've discontinued from my stock, or if it was a custom request from a client, if I had remnants from that, I'll turn it into ready to ship. So I've put all of that on Etsy. Okay. So at least certain things are searchable, and they may find me, and I'll try to direct them to my website. Okay. So that's kind of the perk, I guess, of Etsy. And it's not, when you're just doing it that way, it's not as expensive, but it is still at a cost, whereas the website is much cheap. I say cheaper. It's still
Yeah.
expensive, but like,
Right.
you're not paying anybody an extra commission like you are.
Right, right. And it's the same thing as when you accept credit cards and everything. You have to
Yes.
pay everybody for all of that, and you lose money. And then
Yes.
people want to know why it's so expensive.
Yes. 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 Yes.
So I'm very curious, Katie, what is your definition of success?
Ooh. I love this question because I used to always think, okay, revenue, like how much are you making? Like, are you growing your business that way? But I think I've realized a lot of times it's more relational. Like, who are you building relationships with? Are you turning people away? Are you growing your clientele business? Or not even just growing by more orders, but are you reaching new people?
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like over the last few years, I've made some really good relationships in the industry, or just met some really kind people, and then just who've been a resource to me, or I can be a resource to them, that kind of thing. And I feel like that has given me more reward in the financial aspect, just, and that kind of goes back to where I thought, okay, I used to be a pediatric nurse and now I just sew pillows, but I'm realizing like all the people you meet and just a whole new world out there that's opened up. Yeah. I feel like that's been a fun success thing of my, that I've realized.
What's been your biggest success so far in your business?
I will say the workroom. The new workroom.
Tremendous.
That I'm excited. I mean, it's not finished, so I'm hoping by the end of October it will be complete. Okay. But to be able to do that, to build a new space and get out of my home, I think that's been a big deal to me.
I agree. And in 5 years.
Yes.
That's tremendous.
So I think, I told myself when I was looking at renting or building, same thing. I thought, okay, I could pay a company, whatever. It's expensive in Mississippi, but I know it's even more expensive elsewhere to rent even a small space. So I thought I could either pay that to somebody or, tack it onto my mortgage, whatever, try to do this. And so I've made this work how I can. It's going to take me some time to, realize the financial aspect of this. I want to get out of this workroom at some point, but I will live there for a while to make it affordable.
It's an investment.
It's an investment, yes. Yeah. But I think in the next 5 years, I'll realize like how good of a decision, or I hope I will look back and think this was a good decision. But
Fingers crossed.
People will tell you, and I don't know how much I believe this, but they'll say like, build it and they will come. Take the next step. You can't, if I were to stay in this house where I am now, there's no way I can grow. No way. So this is a step I have to take. Okay. I know it will be good I'll keep working hard, keep pressing on. Yeah. But I think just being able to build this space and have more room, and that's a big deal to me.
I love that.
That makes me feel good about how this business has gone over the last few years and the things that I've been able to do.
All right. So I'm curious. You talked about like shipments going awry and things like that. What happens when there's a mistake in your business? How do you handle it personally, and what do you do with it?
Well, I think the most important thing is to be kind to your client. Like I don't ever, if it's an issue on my end, of course I'm going to resolve it. I'll make it right with a client. I'll speak to one issue I had. This client had ordered a custom fabric that I don't stock. It was an over $1,000 order, had to order the fabric. It was a large order, and shipped it, and it got lost in the mail. And I did not insure that package.
Oh, Katie.
So, I reached out to the client and I was like, look, like I'm going to make this right. I ordered more yardage, but of course when I ordered, it wasn't in stock. So it took an extra 4 months just to get the fabric printed. It was a huge ordeal. And it bothered me a lot because there was nothing I could do. There was nothing the client did wrong. It was out of both of our hands. Yes. But I think I learned from that experience too. Like I treated her well. I responded to her. I took control, and she was very kind about it. I mean, she was frustrated too, but she understood that it wasn't me. And so she was not.
You did not make it.
Right.
It got lost. Yeah.
So I think just learning those things, like treating your clients well, if there's an issue, work your best to resolve it. Right. Now, I will say there have been clients that have ordered things from me and the issue was on their end, not mine. Mm-hmm. And so, learning, okay, I'm not going to sacrifice my own profit because they made a wrong decision, but at least being kind in the response, trying to navigate, helping them realize, just resolve it, not to hurt myself, but just be kind to them. Yeah. And that's been a big help. I think, when something does go wrong, you do get in your head a little bit and you think, okay, I've learned to, surround myself with people. Like if I need to vent about something, I have good friends I can talk to and they'll at least listen.
They may not get it, but they'll listen.
Get it off your chest and say like this, and this. But I try to remind myself I actually keep, it's behind me. I keep a good things box. Mm-hmm. So like they're just, if I'm having a bad day, like I can look at that box and say, okay, these are good things. Like this is a joy that happened or something good, like just to change my mindset a little bit and not get wallowed in like the bad experience. Like these are good things. Just remember, like this will end. This too shall pass.
Yes. I feel like that's a lesson I'm still learning. This too shall pass. Good or bad. Like even when you're like, it's a good reminder to be in the moment because whatever it is, it's going to pass.
Yes. I've had that discussion recently too about just, the bad seasons, like it will end. Mm-hmm. There's an end. But in the good seasons, like you need to be in this, be present, like you said, because this will pass too. Right. It's a good reminder.
Yeah. So you mentioned a book earlier about decisions. Tell me that book if you know it, and then any other books or classes that you've taken that have been significant to you.
Yeah, that book is it's called All the Places to Go, All the Places to Go, and it's by John Ortberg. He's actually a pastor. I think he was in Illinois, and he was debating over taking a pastoral role in California. Mm-hmm. And so he talks about that process, and I thought it was a very well-written book just about the decisions we make and how we make them. And, sometimes it's not actually the decision we make, it's how we go through the decision, how you walk through the open door and how, just, interesting. So it's just a good perspective on, okay, well, maybe, it's not about the career path you take or the choice you make, it's how you do it. And how, like, once you walk through that door, how you do it, how you work with others, how you build relationships. Right. That was a really good perspective that I had never heard before.
Right. And that was always exactly to what you're saying about changing your career. And it doesn't mean you're not doing something of value. You still are.
Yes, you still are. And you have, do it well. Like you make his point too was like, you can make a right decision, but do it wrongly too, So it's just that book, affected me in a lot of good ways, but it just changed my perspective. I will put in a little plug for Workroom Tech because I didn't know. I mean, I found out about Workroom Tech maybe 2 years in, and I don't even remember how, if I was referred. And even this podcast, like the people you interview, like it's been a huge resource to have a group of workrooms come together. The Facebook group, all of those things have been so beneficial to me. I took, I think it was 2 years ago, actually took the Pillow Basics class online. I mean, I'd been making pillows for 3 years.
Right, but you always learn something different.
Yes. So I took that class and I was like, okay, well, it was sort of a confidence booster because I thought, okay, I'm doing it the way they're doing it.
Yes.
But then I also realized, okay, there's this technique too. It was just, that's been very beneficial.
There have been classes that I took, not quite as early on in my career, but after a little bit of time that were worth every penny I spent for exactly the reason you just said. I went, I do know what I'm doing.
Yeah. It gives you a little boost. Like,
I can put the imposter syndrome away for a week.
For now. Just for now.
For now. Yeah, absolutely it will.
I love like YouTube. I will go to YouTube for a lot of things. And when I was learning how to sew, that was my resource. I had a few books that I bought with like patterns in them and kind of taught you how to make pants or boxers or a dress, like that kind of thing. But YouTube has been a huge resource. A lot of times I'll go there first and say, okay, how do I apply this trim or whatever? And usually there's a video.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been very helpful.
Okay. That to me is so funny because as I interview people who are younger and newer in the business, that's been exactly how most of them have learned. And I still remember the first person I learned to sew from YouTube. And I went, life has really changed over the last few years.
Well, I'll have people, so on Instagram, I share a lot of my sewing there, I'll do videos of fabric, applying cording, and people will message me and they're like, can you, show me how to do this? And I don't have the time to do like an educational video, but I'm like, just go to YouTube. It's on YouTube.
Somebody's done it.
Just go to YouTube. Yeah.
And that part's fascinating to me too, because in our industry, people have been very generous about sharing their knowledge, but there is a point where the education has the value.
Yes.
And as you said, I don't have time to make that video. Yes. Because education is time consuming.
Yes.
And so hearing somebody like you say, yeah, I've been making pillows for a couple of years, but it was worth it to take that online class because I learned something. And again, I have things on YouTube too, but it's at a certain point, we can't expect everything for free. We don't expect our clients to want things from us for free. So
yes, 100%.
But I don't often hear like, I don't have time to do those videos. That's time consuming.
Well, from doing the podcast, all the edits that happen behind the scenes, and that's the same with educational videos. You have to come up with a narration and doing certain overheads or like side, all these things, and people don't realize, which is fine. I mean, I didn't realize until I got into it.
Exactly.
How time consuming, but I do hear that too about a lot of people want things for free and they want to learn for free. Yes. And YouTube is great for that. Yes. But there have been plenty of things that I think, I will pay for that because that's worth a professional or it's worth the hands-on learning, whatever experience. Right. It's worth the money.
All right. So we're talking about using a technology. Do you use much technology in your business?
Oh, yes. Everything is through the website. Yes. I mean, I use Shopify as my website host. They're probably most people will have heard of Shopify or Squarespace. Yeah. Shopify is probably the best for e-commerce. Squarespace is a little bit behind that. But yeah, I use Shopify. I do a lot of app usage through their store, like things, add-ons for my shop, that kind of thing. And then of course, QuickBooks. I couldn't survive without QuickBooks. I used to have, when I first started, I was doing a free invoicing service. I think it was called Wave. And I've heard people mention that before, and it's great. It was wonderful. But as you grow, you realize how limiting that is. And so paying for QuickBooks, 100% worth it.
All right.
100%.
So aside from the technology, what 3 business items could you not live without?
QuickBooks is on that list. I think one thing I utilize a lot, and this is still technology, but Adobe. I do a lot through Photoshop and Lightroom. Okay. Photo editing. My camera. I couldn't survive without that. I do all of the photography for my website and the shop. Okay. And that comes in with my iPhone. I would put all of that in one category, just the photography part. My sewing machine is an obvious. Yeah. So when I first started, the sewing machine that my parents gave me was just a little like Janome Sewist, very basic. It was great. Loved that machine. And then one of the ladies at my local sewing shop, she was a mentor to me. She was like, it's time. You need something different. So she had me upgrade to the embroidery machine. It was a dual unit. It was a single head sewing machine, but it had an attachable embroidery unit. She was like, you need this. So I got that, and it was great. And then when I first started the pillow business, when I was doing this full time, I was still using that machine. And I went back to this local this local sewing shop. I think it was just to get a tune-up on that machine. And the lady there goes, Katie, you have got to get something different. It is time. She was like, I've seen your business and you need. So the next step was either an industrial or just a heavy duty machine. So I got a heavy duty Janome that it's a workhorse. Okay. So I love that machine, and I would not be able to do half of what I do without. Right. I mean, the trims that people send, some of these designers send me, and the velvet trying to set. I mean, that thing has worked wonders for me. I can't live without it. I think the next step, when I move into the new workroom, I'll start getting industrial equipment. But obviously the sewing machine is a huge part.
Yeah. Yeah.
That heavy duty machine.
So many of us started with a home machine, and
Yes.
I bought a very expensive home machine thinking,
Yeah.
oh, this is and then I went, oh, what was I thinking?
That's one of the first, one of the designers I sew for, this was early on when I was sewing. She sent me a Caterpillar trim. Is that thick trim? It has it's a fringe, but it has no basting stitch on it. So it's already open in the package. And I was sewing on my embroidery machine, trying to sew through it. And that would not, the trim banding is so thick.
It's like a half an inch thick.
Yes. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had to call a friend of mine who has a workroom. I was like, can I come borrow your machine? And she graciously let me come sew on her machine. But that was one of the realizations. I thought, I can't do this on this basic machine. I told her at that point, I was like, look, don't ever order that trim again. And now that I have the new machine, I've gone back, I've told her, I was like, let's try it. And it does work, but I do not say a lot of good words when I'm sewing that trim. It is so difficult. It's so difficult.
I do think there's a whole special language and forgiveness for those of us who sew.
I think so too. When I say my prayers at night, I'm like, I'm sorry for that word. I said God. I might say it again.
But I couldn't help it. Katie, do you do any sewing for pleasure?
I used to. That machine that I had, when I first started, I was making my own clothes. I bought a few little books that had patterns in them. I was making dresses, making, even tea towel things. I mean, just little home decor things that I loved. And I missed that. This machine that I have now is just a straight stitch, and I don't have room to set up my little home machine.
Okay.
So I'm hoping once I'm in the new workroom, I'll have a designated space and I can start doing that again. Yeah. It's fun. I think it's important to do something different, stay creative.
Yeah. Yes. But
the business has taken priority.
Yeah. And that's what I do frequently.
That. Yes. Yes.
I'm always happy when people say, yes, I do. And I'm like, okay, how do you make the time? Please tell me.
I know. Please share, because I would love to know.
So of the different things that you make, what is your favorite thing to make?
Well, I think obviously the pillows. That's all I make.
But a lot of people say that it's a finite product. It doesn't take forever. You get in there, you get it done, and there's a sense of satisfaction. Like, look, I'm done. It's done.
That's what I love most. It is a smaller project, and yes, I feel very efficient at it, and I can sometimes. I mean, I think I've counted. I could do 30 pillows in a day if I dedicate the time, and that to be able to turn out that much in a short time to me is very satisfying. Yeah, I dread the thought of having a window treatment on my table for a week. That thought overwhelms me. I want to finish it and get it out the door. Okay. So I love pillows. I will say the bolsters are still tricky to me. I feel like every fabric is different, and the way it is shaped is very different. So as much as I love bolsters, that's probably my least favorite, just because they're more time consuming, and then each fabric shifts differently on the insert. And so anyway, but a square pillow, my favorite thing. Okay. I do miss, thinking about sewing for pleasure, I do miss like making my own clothes and doing things like that. When I first started sewing, the lady at this sewing shop, she was my mentor too, but she would laugh at me because I had no idea what fabrics were, what a knit fabric was compared to a cotton, had no clue. So we were making things, and she was like, I cannot believe you're buying like jersey knit fabric, and that's the first thing you're going to sew on. Like, I had no idea. Like, you don't know what you don't know. So I would get tickled over that, but I do miss things like that. Those were always fun to make, and it's something you make for yourself, and you can wear it and use it. That was fun. Okay.
What do you do extremely well?
I think just dealing with customers. I feel like I have a good sense of just customer service and making sure that my clients are pleased, that they get what they are asking for. But I think I deal with people pretty well, or can read people really well. And so that's been beneficial as like a sales role for me. I can manage clients well and direct them well. That's a good thing.
And from the conversations I've had with my sister, I'm sure that was a valuable skill as a nurse,
Yes.
you might have a patient that you just adore who has a family that not so much.
Yes.
And
Well,
being able to read them and understand
Yes.
they're scared, they have a sick child, but they're also,
Yes. And that not laughing about that, but the thing about pediatrics is you're not dealing with just a child. When you're an adult nurse, you're just dealing with your patient, dealing with him. But in the pediatric world, you're dealing with the families too.
Yeah.
And I was in a very sensitive department, and so having to, deal with emotions of diagnoses and things like that, did give me a sense of just how to be around people and how to manage emotions and how to, resolve situations. So I give a lot of credit to that role.
Katie, do you feel like in any part of you that when there is an issue with an order or there's a problem with a client, like this might be where it's okay to say, it's just a pillow. No one's going to die. And you have faced those things. This is just a pillow. Yeah.
There is a huge relief in that I think, okay, nobody's going to be injured in this. I didn't make a life-altering decision. Maybe a financial altering decision, but not a life. This will work itself out. So yes, there is some relief in that it is just a pillow. It is just a window treat like this. You kind of have to realize this is not going to affect somebody that drastically.
I feel like your perspective from the nursing years would have a lot to do with that.
Yes.
Okay. What do you not do so well?
I think saying no is a big one.
Yeah.
I want to help or I want to take on orders or do things. And I think, okay, I'll try this. Like if somebody asks me for something different, something that I don't normally make, and I'm like, well, I want to take that on so that I can try it and I can see what it might take. And I immediately regret it. And I usually know, like on the front end, I probably should say no, but it's usually somebody I want to, either somebody I know, or somebody who I know I want them to be a permanent client. So I want to work harder to take on this project.
Gotcha.
So saying no is a hard thing for me. I've gotten better at it.
Okay.
I will say it's still a struggle.
Okay. What do you love best about this business so far?
The flexibility. That goes back to the whole W-2 thing. I love, if I want to go to lunch, I can go to lunch. I might work till 10 at night some nights.
Right.
But just being able to be flexible and set my own schedule and, work with clients, I'm not set to a 8 to 5. I have to have my head in the game 8 to 5. You're dealing with people at different hours of every day. So I love the flexibility it brings to my life.
Okay.
That I didn't have before. I'll say too, even just the creativity. One thing I didn't mention when I went to Mississippi State, my first major, my freshman year was interior design. And I loved it, but I didn't feel like I compared myself to everybody else and realized, okay, I'm not as good as they are. I don't do things, this is probably not where I need to be. And I ended up getting into marketing that I loved, and then obviously went into nursing. But there was something I was missing. I didn't feel like I had that creative outlet. And the workroom business gives you that creativity. This is where I was meant to be. This is what I love. And being able to put fabrics together, put cordings, pick out colors, like that offers so much creativity that I really do appreciate about this role.
Okay, that's awesome. I love that. What do you like least about it?
I think in the same token, it is rarely consistent. There's always a challenge. And so when you feel like, oh, I finally figured this out. No, you haven't. Like, here's this new problem. And that's a good thing. It provides challenge, which I do like, but also some days I'm like, couldn't this have been the same as it was yesterday? That's probably my least favorite. Just having every project is different. Even in the pillow world, when I think all of these are the same, something is thrown at you that's like, oh, okay,
so
I got to rethink this.
Even with a niche product, there are still, we know that because we could make 50 box pleat balances, but one wants a border, one wants a micro cord, one wants a different color inserted. So it is never the same thing. And that's part of what I love about it is it's never the same.
I know. Yeah.
But once in a while, we'll be like, could we just make this one easy? Like just once. Oh my.
I was thinking about the trim. Just everything that I do is online. So I don't have access. Like when I'm working with some of my designers who send me fabric, I don't have the I don't have the luxury of seeing the fabric or the material beforehand.
Okay.
So I'm looking at a picture online and I'm saying, okay, I kind of have an idea what this trim is going to be like or the thickness of it, but it's not tangible until I receive it, you know?
Right.
And so sometimes like I'll like get something from a designer. I'm like, there's no way this is going to work, you know?
Right.
And I don't know if it's
bend around the corner.
Yes. Yeah. You know, just little things like that. And I think, how can I resolve this? But there's really no way to resolve that. I mean, just is what it is. And so that may be another frustration, is just everything is so online now. There's, you know, and we work in different cities. I'm not, you know, I'm dealing with people in DC or California or New York, not necessarily here in Mississippi. And so having to figure that out and understand material is different.
How have you attracted these people to what kind of marketing have you done? Because most of us concern ourselves with people in our area. So this is really a different thing.
Social media has been a big part of my growth. One of the designers that I sew for, she and I grew up together. And so I had a connection with her. She's out of DC and I adore her. And we've had a very good connection, and I do all of her pillows for her, and she's been so kind to keep me busy. But even through her, you know, she'll share things that I do.
I was just about to ask that.
That reaches other designers, you know, and I used to do Instagram ads. I'll mention this. I have always struggled with, okay, paid advertising. Where are your dollars most well spent?
Right.
And for a while I thought, I will never pay Facebook or Instagram. I won't do that. Because you don't really know who's seeing, like, is it going to the right audience per se?
Right.
So early last year, I did hire worked with a marketing firm to create a target audience for me. And we started boosting some of the videos that I would make, the reels that I would make on Instagram. And that served me well. He was able to target the right people, gave me a lot of growth. But I will also add, I'm not sure that I saw orders from that. So I realized this year, okay, I'm going to go back to not paying and just see what happens.
Okay.
And I can't tell that it made a difference. Maybe my reach is a little smaller, but it hasn't really affected me financially.
I was going to say, reach doesn't pay your bills. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's that struggle of, but I do try to keep, I'm consistent on social media. So even though I'm not paying them anymore, I do try to stay consistent, whether that's posting like something to my feed or doing a video, because that does help me reach people and let people know I'm still here. They can still buy from me. That and email marketing has been a huge, sending out newsletters, you know, have an audience or segment of people who've signed up for my newsletters, and I email once or twice a month. And that has helped generate new clients and new business too.
Okay. Katie, what about you would surprise people?
I think somewhat just like being free spirited. I'm not as organized as I make it look. I'm really not. I joke about being the fly by the seat of your pants kind of person, which in this role you can't be. I mean, you can be to some extent, but you have to be organized and have some drive. So I think just it'll work itself out is kind of my motto. And I think that would probably shock people that I'm not as steered.
In what ways do you think you're resilient, Katie?
I think part of this comes back through the COVID year. I mean, just being able to overcome, in this industry, we all experience like the shipping delays, the timelines that were extended, lead times, just being shut down for that long. You know, I mean, I think realizing that I survived that. I mean, if I could survive that, like bring it on, you know, what other issue could there be? Right.
Yeah.
What could be worse? I'm sure there's a lot of things that could be worse, but just realizing like, okay, either a bad review or a bad order, you know, something went wrong. I've had clients reorder who had something bad happen before. And I think that makes me feel good because obviously like whatever I did, whatever I said worked. And so realizing like, okay, don't let that get the best of you. Be kind to your people and it will work itself out. You know, they'll come back.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I think just having that confidence a little bit, just realizing like, okay, it worked that time. It's going to work again. You know, don't worry. Don't worry too much.
Okay. let me know how that works for you. I still haven't gotten it. Don't worry too much.
I have to read that Post-it note every morning.
Don't worry too much.
to remind myself, don't worry.
So, Katie, how can people find you? I will put links in your show notes, but it's your website, Facebook, and Instagram.
Everything is Mississippi Stitches, and that's spelled out. It's a lot of S's in there. I get that's a long name.
Okay, but those of us who are a little older know how to spell this because it was part of the song. Mississippi.
That's a crooked letter, I, crooked letter. I get tickled because I'm like, I even catch myself. I'm like, it's Mississippi. Like, I live in Mississippi. I forget the two S's that are in there. So I have to be very clear. It's Mississippi Stitches. But that's Instagram, Facebook. My website is MississippiStitches.com. You can find me there.
All right. I will put a link to that in the show notes as well. So tell me, Katie, I know you said, and this might have even been before we started recording, just kind of comparing yourself and thinking that other people were doing more than you. I still feel like you have built a really beautiful business that is.
Thank you.
It's been well thought out and you haven't gotten distracted. Maybe you're flying by the seat of your pants a little bit, but you still are directed. So what advice would you give to someone who's new in the industry or someone who's been around for a little while?
I think just that whole mentality of like, keep pressing on. I mean, you can easily get distracted by either what other people are doing, what they're saying, a bad order, but just every day, like keep doing what you're doing, be consistent. Be kind to your people, and that will be rewarding enough.
Yeah. So you've reminded me, you probably have not been in the industry long enough to remember Beth Hodges. I loved Beth.
I know that name.
Yeah,
okay.
You do know the name because those of us who've been in the industry for a while, but one of the things that she said was just be nice to people.
Yeah.
And she's from
100%.
the South. She's from the South, so she said it with the same beautiful accent that you're saying it with. It just makes it's a really good reminder. Just be kind.
Just be kind.
It's a good way to run a business.
Yes. I even in the nursing world, I realized, okay, you could have a terrible doctor, but if he has good bedside manner, you'll love him.
Mm-hmm.
You could have a really great doctor who has terrible bedside manner, and then you don't like, even though he might cure your ailment, you don't like him. And it's the same in our world. Like if you're kind to your people, if you treat your clients well, your vendors well, even when something bad happens, they will still come to you.
Exactly.
If you treat them well.
Yeah. Katie, this has been an absolute delight for me. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm excited.
I learned more about your business, and I find it fascinating. And I love that we can have different business models that work for us.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you've been an excellent resource, and listen to your podcast and all the other workrooms. I mean, it does make you realize how different we all are and how we all operate differently. There's no one right way.
Right.
You figure out what you enjoy and you do it, but this has been a blast. So thank you.
Good. I'm so glad. Thank you. I really hope that you enjoyed hearing from Katie today. I just absolutely love how we can all have different business models and make things work for us. The fact that Katie has niched down so far and is keeping her product line fairly small, and it allows her to focus on one or two things and do them really well. So I'm really excited to see where Katie's business is going to go in the next couple of years. And I'm excited to see what she'll develop as she moves into her new workroom. It's just been so exciting for me to interview some of the newer, younger people in our industry and see how they perceive they want their businesses to be and what new ideas they're coming up with. I really hope that you enjoyed hearing from Katie today. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great day.